Hey guys, it's Nick, or Snake here. This is something I've wanted to do for a little while. I wanted to make a little tutorial for everybody for all my Foundry games. I think it'll help you get comfortable with the actual game of Foundry and all my 5e games, especially for Dragonlance, because I know I'm kind of running it with a bunch of people here. So everything keeps changing all the time, and I'd like to kind of set it in stone until the end of the campaign. Of course, there's things that will always change with Foundry, and little additions here and there, right? But I think for the most part, I've kind of gotten it down to a T of where I like it to be. So this is something so that way you can all be more comfortable with Foundry. And I'm going to put a bunch of timestamps here in the video, so you can always refer back to it if you need to, or if you're like, oh, I've already know about this, or I just want to know about this one thing that Snake was talking about, or oh yeah, how do I target something again? I'm going to put all that in the timestamps below. So this is something I've always wanted to do, and just to make it easier for you guys to play in my games, right? Because Foundry can be quite daunting for not even just newer players, but even people who have been playing for Foundry for quite a while, and every GM's game is so different and vastly compared to other GM's games. So, and without further ado, I'm going to turn off my camera and we'll go ahead and get started. Thanks everybody, and I'll see you in the game. So when you guys first join Foundry, and I give you the link to join in here, go ahead and post it into your Chrome browser, and then you're going to log in. I'm just going to use the test account for now, but you'll use your name or your character's name, whatever I've assigned it as. There'll be no password to join. You'll just go ahead and click Join Game Session, and then it will log in here. Usually takes about a couple seconds, sometimes maybe a minute, depending on how fast your internet is. And then once we're logged in here, we will go ahead and select a couple options for you here. You can choose a player avatar. If you want, you can upload your own. I would put it in the uploads folder though, if you wish to upload your own token. So if maybe you have an image here that you like, this will be not the character image, but it's the user image that you'll use. And then just go ahead and select file, and then that way whenever you're speaking, like if you just say hello and you don't have your character selected, it'll come in as that image of your account image. You can go ahead and select your color. Anyone is fine. It's your personal choice more than anything. But if other people are logged in and they have a similar color, it's good to pick one that is a little bit different. So we'll go ahead and pick yellow here. And then you can set your pronouns if you wish to. You don't have to. And then you'll select your character. There'll probably be only one slot for you to choose if I've assigned the character to you. We're just going to use Godric just for an example. But let's say you're playing Spitz, you could choose Spitz or a different character that's on here. But go ahead and click Save Configuration. If you mess up and you have to redo this, on the bottom left here of Foundry, there's these little dot icons. Go ahead and left-click the dot, and then it should show all the players in here. Right-click your name or the test account or your username, and then click User Configuration again. And then you could release the character that you didn't want to choose, or you can choose again the character you did want to pick. Alright, and then if you left-click here again, it just minimizes it and unminimizes it. Next, let's talk about Foundry controls themselves. So in Foundry, there is a couple of controls here. On the top right-hand side, there's a bunch of tabs. Let's talk about those first. So in the top right, you have chat messages. These are where you can say, hello, how's it going? And you can speak as your avatar, correct? You can change the public role to be public, private, a blind GM, or a self role. Most of the time, just leave it on public role. You can also upload an image here from your computer if you wish, and say, look, this is what my character really looks like. Sometimes it takes a couple seconds to load in there, and then boom, there he is. Look how happy he is. Thumbs up, dude. Thumbs up, wizard. Also on the bottom right, you also have a little dice tray. It starts from D4s and goes to D6, D8, D10, D12, D20, and D100. So if you need to add a D20 and add some modifiers to that, you can, and then when you click the roll button, it will roll in the chat here for you. The more you left click, the more dice it adds. It will roll up to 20, but do note that the more rolling that you do, the more data it uses from Foundry. So if you have a weaker computer, it can be a little bit heavy on you if you have the dice on. Besides that, you can also add advantage or disadvantage to the roll. So let's say I need you to roll 2d20, and one of them has to be advantage. Then click the advantage button, and then click roll. And we'll throw in the chat here, and we'll say the 17 was the higher of the roll, right? If you need to see what the roll was, you can just left-click on the status icon of it here, and it'll show you rolled an 8 and a 17. That is it for the chat message box area. Combat Encounters tab, you won't need to worry about too much. The Actors tab is where your character sheet will be in. Normally it's under a folder that I've designated for our game. The Items tab here, the Journal tab, Roll Tables, Card Stacks, and the Playlist button. If you need to turn down the music, it's too loud or it's not loud enough, you can do so by going here. Playlist is usually the music that's playing in the background. Sometimes there is like ambient noise that's playing on Foundry, like birds chirping or like outside forest music or the wind. That's normally with the ambient noise. And then there's some interface volume as well, like some Foundry specific noises like door noises and some other things. So that's done, that's that kind of noise. So if you want to turn those all down, or up to you at your discretion. Last but not least is the Compendium tab, which you won't ever really need to use. This is more for the GM. And the last tab is the Game Settings tab that we can go over at the very end of the tutorial here. Next up, we can talk about token controls. So in order to do that, we need an actual token on the field first, or on the map. You can do that by going to the Actors tab. If it isn't already on the map, most of the time I throw your actors on there, but if it isn't already on the map, or you're not seeing anything, go ahead and grab your character and just throw it anywhere on the map here. If you can't see the map, then it's because it's walled and it's supposed to be black, or it's supposed to have dark vision or nighttime on it. Once you do so, you'll see this thing we'll talk about later. This is called the Token Action HUD. We'll talk about that later in the video. But you should see your character and it should be automatically selected. You can zoom in and out with the Foundry mouse wheel, with your mouse wheel on your mouse with the in button, or the out. The more you out zoom, the more it zooms out. The more you zoom in, the more it zooms in. If you wish to pan the camera around, you can hold the right mouse button to move the camera, and then when you left click off of your character, it will unselect it. If you left click it, it will select it. This orange little box will be around it. That means that your token is currently selected. So a lot of things with Foundry, most of the time you have to make sure your token is actually selected. On the left hand side here, there is these different controls for your token, and measurement controls and drawing tools, journal notes, and sequence layer. But the only ones you'll really need to mess with is token controls. Drawing and measurement you'll probably never use, and journal notes I probably won't use too much. And you won't ever have to mess with the sequence layer. That'll be more a GM thing. So under token controls on the left hand side here, make sure your token is always selected, right, with the little orange square. You can target things, like targeting your own token or other people's tokens by just clicking this button and then left clicking the token. Every time you left click it, it will unselect it. You can also, you always have to kind of make sure you're on the select token button, otherwise you won't be able to move your character. So if we're on the measure distance tool, for instance, and we're measuring out how far away this feet is, and then you're like, all right, I want to move my character over here. Why isn't it moving? Oh, that's because you're not on the right token select tool. So make sure you're on that, and then you'll be able to move the full 30 feet. There's also a little clear blood button icon here. Sometimes the map gets a little bloody, and if it gets too bloody where you can't see tokens and stuff, you can clear that with this button here. There's also a step away for a minute button. If we go back to our chat message log here, you can see that Godric will step away for a minute and then he can come back. There's another way to show that you're AFK that is a little bit better, but that's one way to do it. Now for part 2 of the basic controls here is how to move your character. You can do so by using the WASD keys on your keyboard, and you could use the up, down, left, right arrow keys as well to move adjacent to another square. You can also double tap 2 keys at once to move in a directional direction. If you wish to move fully, and not just 5 foot a square, you can do so by clicking and dragging your character outwards while holding the left mouse button. That will show you a full distance of how far you can go. You can zoom out too while holding it and see how far it really goes out. And it shows in different colors too. So the green shows how far your full movement is. Yellow shows how much you can dash, and red shows you can't move into those squares. So 60 feet, 50 feet would be perfect here for Godric if he was to use an action to dash, right? If you wish to move by using waypoints, which I think is fairly useful, you could do so by clicking and dragging, and let's say he wants to move 15 feet here, and then he wants to move 10 feet this way, and then 5 feet diagonal in this direction. Every time you click the spacebar button, it will add a waypoint on the character, and when you let go, it will move to those waypoints. So you can do one every 5 feet if you want. You can mess it up a little bit, go 10 feet, you know, it's up to you how you wish to control it. But let's say if we wanted to go all the way to this rock over here, and we went 10 feet this way, 10 feet this way, and then we went, oh shoot, I meant to go over to this rock, but now I'm going this way. How do I undo that? You can undo that by just right-clicking while you're holding left mouse button, and then it will completely redo the turn, and you can or completely redo the directional pad, and you can redo it, and then there we go. Cool, I made it to the rock. Right? Or you can just move one step at a time with the arrow keys. Whatever you feel is the better choice. One thing to note is when we are in indoors with like walls and stuff on the outside here, it doesn't matter too much because there's nothing to block our view or our movement, right? So we can kind of just freely move anywhere in the arena here. But if for instance, if we move to an indoor map here, so now we've moved to an indoor map just to show you the difference in a couple different things that you can do with Foundry still. With basic movements. You can still move with the up, down, left, right arrow keys, correct, right? But when we're in some place that has actual darkness and it's using dynamic lighting and all that, it's better to use either the up, down, left, right arrow keys or slow movements by like 5 feet by 5 feet. Because when you try to move, let's say for example we move back to here and we want to move to this square, you can see Foundry will say, you can't do that because there's a wall there in the way. So you'll need to actually move forward once and then you can move around the wall. So walls become a little bit of a nuisance if you're trying to drag to a certain area and say, I want to go here. Well, you can't because there's walls in the way. So that's when moving in 5 feet directions or using the up, down, left, right arrow keys is a little bit easier. And now that we're kind of done talking about that, we could talk about some other cool features for Foundry here. Like for instance, this door. You'll see a little door icon here. This means that you could actually walk over to it and open it up and lead it into the next room, and you can go out and check out the little barracks room here and be like, ooh, this is cool, right? And then, oh, I wonder what's down this hallway. Open it up. One thing that's really cool about Foundry, though, however, is the ability that I have added on a module that is called the... oh, I guess we could talk about that too. sorry, Mr. GM, you're right. There is a ping system. The ping system here can be used to ping certain areas and items. I forgot about it. Thanks for reminding me. So over here, if we were to move Godric up a little bit here, maybe we wanted to check out what was in this chest. If you want to ping something, you can actually hold the left mouse button down, and you can ping things on the map. It'll show me and the GM, and we'll say, hey, actually, you should check out these cards, because somebody's got a full house. And you can win next turn, right? Oh, check out this really cool map that's over here, right? Or, I want to take these glasses over here, Mr. DM. So, that's one way to ping on the map without moving your character there. I would say just if we're moving through doors and things of the like, you know, if your character is way over here checking out this chest, you know, you should be able to not close the door all the way over here. So just be aware of where your character is during the game. Next up, we can talk about a little module that I find is very fun and useful before we get into combat here, or the actual character sheet, is one called Token Lean. So if you hit the Z button, I think it should be Z or Q depending on your controls, which you can change later on. But if you hold the Z button, you should be able to adjust the light value of where the mouse is. So if we're looking on this side and we're saying Godric is looking in this viewpoint, the mouse acts as like his eyeballs, right? So if he looks outside of this door, he says, oh look, there's a zombie over here. Oh, that's not good. But you could do so without actually moving your token out into plain field of view. If you want to, you still can. This is just something that I find is very neat on Foundry to do. And it shows me as the GM if you're leaning to. So that way I know, oh, they're looking around the corner, right? And you can say, I want to look around the corner, GM. I want to see what we see. Is there anything in the way, right? Is maybe there a zombie just sneaking up on me or something like that, right? So that's something kind of cool. Let's speak about how to open up your character sheet, though. How do you actually roll things and look at your character sheet and, you know, roll a perception check, or roll for initiative, or check how much armor I have or my health? That's a great question, and you can do so as long as your character is configured. You've selected your character. If at any point you wish to look at your character sheet, you can do so by hitting the C key. That will open and close your character sheet. You can also do so by double left-clicking your token on the map. That will open it up as well. And in the Actors tab, too, you can also open it by just left-clicking on the actor in the Actors tab. From here, you can look at the sheet. There's quite a bit to it, but you'll have your armor class, normally your name up at the top here, what oath of class you are, if you're a paladin, if you're medium, your race, your background, and what your chaotic, if you're chaotic good, your level is here, your proficiency is here, your picture is here. Inspiration can be toggled on and off by clicking here, and there's like a little animation to show that it is on. When it's off, it's gray. You can add exhaustion effects to yourself with the little happy face, and then the bed icon is where you can roll to take a short rest or a long rest, depending on the hourglass. The second one is a long rest, the first one is a short rest. This button shows how much hit dice you have, equal to your level, and then your HP, and if you have any temporary or max HP here. And then it shows your strength score, your dexterity, constitution, intelligence, wisdom, and charisma. All the modifiers are here. And then these are all your skills. And the little checkboxes mean that you are proficient in them. And then you have your senses, your languages that you know, damage immunities, resistances, vulnerabilities, conditions, weapon proficiencies, armor proficiencies, and tool proficiencies on the bottom there. And then these are just resources that you might have that are limited to 3 on Foundry. And then if you wish to take a short rest for your character sheet, you can do so by left-clicking here on the chat. And let's just say Godric was down 25 HP. So he was at 42 health. The answer to the universe and everything, right? But this shows you how many dice you have to roll for a short rest. You can click the roll button. Every time you do, it only rolls one of the hit dice here, and it will automatically heal you, plus your constitution. So every time you keep clicking that button, it will automatically heal you, and we'll say, yeah, we're okay with one less hit point. I'd like to save, you know, the rest of my hit dice, right? Maybe I might have another short rest later on. It probably isn't a new day on a short rest. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't, but most of the time it isn't. Click rest, and then that'll be it for a short rest. If we, however, take a long rest, you can do so the same button. It's just the next one over. And it's normally a new day when you take a long rest, so just go ahead and click rest, and it resets all your hit dice. Not all your hit dice, but it will reset equal to half of the number of hit dice you have. And then you have your inventory. If you wish to unequip or equip something, you can do so by just right-clicking and clicking the equip item. Same for any equipment you might have, or if you are immune or attuned to an item or not attuned. That's what the little sun icon is for. This shows at the bottom of the sheet how many attunements you can have active. Anything that's green is usually equipped. This is your gold. You can add gold and subtract gold here, just like a calculator. So you can minus 10 gold, and it'll minus 10 gold. You can add 10 gold, and it will add... oops, I minused another 10. Sorry, let me give you back 20, Godric. There you go. Normally it auto-calculates it, so it just puts it into the next bracket. So it'll be 3 platinum points, which is to every 10 gold is 10 platinum points, right? Or sorry, every 10 gold is in increments to the next one. So copper to silver, silver to copper, or silver to gold, and gold to silver. Next up is your spellbook here. You can also sort your inventory by actions or bonus actions or reactions or what you have equipped if you don't want to look at everything in your character sheet. Next up is your spellbook. This will show how many spell slots you have. So if you've used up 2, if you've used up 2, then it'll say you've got 2 out of 4, or you've got 3 out of 3, or however you have remaining. You can give yourself go down some or go up some by just left-clicking and adding it back manually. Or if we take a long rest or a short rest, it'll automatically add it to it. These are all your spells. If you wish to learn like what an item is, you can do so. Same thing for in the inventory or the spell book. Anywhere in the character sheet, you can do the same thing, even for features. So if you don't remember what Abjure Enemy does, you can left-click and read more about it here. You can also, it'll put it in a little chat window on the left-hand side, but if it's too big, you can hold the X key to interact with the card. It'll keep it on the open here, and then you can just kind of browse through at your own leisure if you wish. You can also click the middle mouse button, that will open it up as well. Under the spellbook here, when you want to cast something or you wish to use an inventory item, just click the image where the little black dice is, and that will roll everything all together. Normally you'll have to choose and select targets. We'll go over that in the combat here, but just to show you, it'll ask you if this is a normal roll. I have a little situational bonus if you have to quickly add guidance, but you almost never really have to mess around with that. If this is a public, private, or a blind GM, or a self roll, normally it's just normal. You'll click that. It'll roll in the chat here, it'll roll the dice, and it'll roll everything all together at once. And there you go. He did 13 damage and 14 on the hit if we were to hit a creature or something. Same thing for a spell. It will ask you to auto-target stuff. You can just do so by left-clicking. So let's just say Spitz is out here, our other player, and Godric wishes to bless himself and Spitz. We'll go ahead and click the bless spell button here, and we'll select ourself, and while holding shift, we can select ourself and Spitz, and then click roll, and we're going to use a 1 level spell slot, and we are going to consume it, and click cast spell. And then we'll automatically apply and place all the all the selected effects and everything on the token itself. So then when we go for another attack here, and we attack with the Warhammer, and let's just say we're just rolling it, swinging it in the air, it will automatically add the 1d4 to the formula of the dice here. So, and there we go. Nice. Altogether 17. Not too bad. Not too bad. Bless is good. Anything else on the character sheet besides that? You can manually adjust if you need to. If you have to give yourself back a harness power or give yourself back a status, you can just do so quickly by adding it back. But most of the time it's set to automatically do so. The effects tab you probably won't ever have to mess with, but let's say, for example, you are concentrating on something, you can do so by disabling it here, or you can disable it at the top right. This shows you all the passive and active effects on you, on your character. Make sure that your character is selected, and then you just right-click and say, we're not concentrating on Bless anymore, and it'll automatically take it off, and Foundry is very smart to take off all the required spell effects. You can change your biography here and your journal here. If you ever need to delete something out of your inventory, you do have to make sure that the Enable Edit button is off. Otherwise, you won't be able to delete anything in your inventory. Oh boy, that was a lot to go over. So this shows your AC. This INI is your initiative as well. A lot to go on with Foundry, so try not to get overwhelmed. It's fairly simplistic, but it can be a little bit intimidating at first. Speaking of intimidation... Oh, we're not too intimidated, you know. Maybe a little bit. Shortcuts here for Foundry that I think are really neat, that everyone should be able to use, or should start to learn to use, is Token Action HUD. This can be quicker than just clicking on the character sheet itself, or opening up the character sheet, but it's really up to you at the end of the day. But this little HUD bar here, this is called the Token Action HUD. You can left-click and drag it from any of these tabs here, and you can kind of place it wherever you wish. Do note, if you place it more on the bottom, it will display from the top down, or if you place it more up on the top of the map, it will display from the bottom down. So wherever you place it is up to you, but wherever you find it's easiest. But this is a quick way to roll your attacks, roll from your inventory, roll from a feature, roll from a spell, or even like an attribute. So like, let's say we have to do a dexterity saving throw. That's normally under attributes. We click dexterity, it'll ask if it's an ability check or a saving throw. We'll say saving throw, and let's say we have advantage to the roll, and we're going to roll it publicly, and we left click it, and nice, got a 20. Awesome. Same thing, you can apply conditions to yourself too, like if you're concentrating, or if you are blinded, or if you're charmed, or deafened, or exhausted, or you're invisible. You can add all these things, or if you're prone, you can add all these to yourself. You can also get rid of the status effect by right-clicking on the top right, just like we went over on the character creation, or character sheet earlier. With that is a really handy tool to use. Do note, it only shows what you have currently prepared. It will not show every single spell that you have or every single thing that's in your inventory. I believe it only shows things that are currently equipped or are readily available. With that out of the way, I think we could go to combat now. Let us place ourselves on the other map here, and we will go over that. So let's say that zombie we just saw, right, has now, we've seen the zombie, we're going to roll initiative here, and we're going to get into combat. So I'll say, alright, we're going into initiative here, everybody roll for combat, or roll for initiative. You'll see this be placed up at the top of the chat here, these little spinning dice. This is called the Combat Token Tracker. And the same thing can just be displayed over in the sword icon here. so you can see in either way, but this one is visually to display for you on the battle map itself, so that way you can still see the chat log if you wish to, but it's your choice. You could also right-click the combat encounter, and you could have it open here as well. If you need to roll initiative, you can do so from the Token Action HUD and click Roll Initiative here. You could roll initiative by left-clicking on the little spinning white dice, and that will roll your initiative there as well. Or you could do so on your character sheet and making sure it's selected, and then clicking the initiative button here, and you can roll it here as well. Multiple different ways to roll initiative, but the probably simplest is to just click on the button up here and click the little dice, and it'll roll your initiative for you. And then I'll roll for the zombie, and then we'll go ahead and start combat. Whatever is on the left-hand side is the active token at the moment. You can always do so by hovering over it. It will show you which is the active token. Something also really handy too is that it displays everyone's health. It doesn't show the full amount, but it shows in terms of like healthy, bloodied, wounded, barely hurt, and like last leg and like very near dead. So the redder the healthy here gets, the closer the zombie or the character is to dying. You can do that by always hovering over them. As long as your character token is selected, you can hover over another target, and it will show you how much feet you are exactly towards away from it. So you don't really even need to use the measure distance token tool, because a lot of the times when you are using it, you'll say, all right, DM, I want to move 10 feet forward, and you can't move. Well, why can't I move? Well, that's because you're not selected on the token. Make sure you're always on the select token tool. And then you'll move up 10 feet, and then when it's your turn, Godric, when it's your turn. So the zombie gets to go first, right? Because it's fast. It just ate recently, so Godric's on an empty stomach here. But if the zombie moves up 10 feet here, and then we'll take a swing at Godric, and we'll try to slam an attack into him. Oh, but we'll clearly miss here. And then when the zombie's turn is over, it will be Godric's turn. And you see that now Godric is the next one on the chopping block here. If Godric's turn is to go, he can go ahead and move if he wishes to. Let's say he moves 5 feet here, 5 feet here, and moves on the other side, not provoking opportunity attacks because Godric is well combat capable. And then if we go into his inventory here, and we go ahead and select with the, say he's going to attack with the javelin or the infused warhammer here, make sure to target it. It will automatically ask you to target characters. The only time it won't is when you're using a measurement control for you for the AoE, and you can choose to place that down when you want to. But if there's no target selected, nothing will happen, so we'll go ahead and select. Just left click on the target you wish. If you wish to target more than multiple things, you just hold the select button down and you select multiple things. And then when you're ready, you're like, I'm choosing that zombie, clicking the roll, and we're gonna just roll normally here. Okay, and a 15 will hit the zombie for a little bit of damage. Sometimes it will ask you if sneak attack applies or other features. Let's go ahead and use a first level spell slot on him. Why not? Dang, blast him here for 26 damage and just completely obliterate him. Blah. You can see too, we can always clear up the blood as well. So, like I said, if there's too much blood on the screen, you can clear it up by clicking that button. With that would be the end of combat. We would end combat here. But that's just how combat is normally done. You can always target beforehand and then click the button, and it'll know that it'll still ask you, are you sure you want to target that zombie? Yeah, I definitely do. And we'll roll the attack again and make sure he's really dead, right? And we won't use Divine Smite this time. And with that, the zombie will definitely be dead there. And then we can go ahead and end combat and that is how we kind of do combat for the moment and targeting people. So targeting is definitely a very important thing in Foundry. If you don't target, it won't know how to hit or who to hit or what to hit. So always making sure that you're targeting something in combat is an important key aspect in Foundry. So remember, you can always do so by just hovering over and clicking the T button. And if you want to target multiple things, just hold the Shift button and target. One thing we could go over real quick that I forgot about on combat is, let's say, for example, the zombie is still alive here. And let's say we still get into combat, and let's say we roll initiative here. I'm just going to roll initiative for everyone just to get it into combat quickly. But let's say the zombie has a save spell, like Sacred Flame. I know, right? That's, how could a zombie have Sacred Flame? That is just not cool. That is anti-zombie. But let's just say, for example, it did. We'll go ahead and target Godric here. We'll cast Sacred Flame on him. It will roll in the chat and deal 1 damage to you. The spell will activate and cast, and it doesn't matter if it's a blind GM roll or not. You'll go ahead and click normal or advantage or disadvantage based on the roll. And nice, Godric will fail and take 1 damage. Awesome. Awesome. You'll see in the chat that he rolled and failed with the 4. Do note, though, if you do not choose to roll within the allotted time slot of about 15 seconds, I might amplify this by a bit more, maybe 30 seconds or maybe 20, but I think 15 seconds is quick enough for you to react to roll your saving throw here and ask me if it's advantage, disadvantage, normal. Most of the time, Foundry does it automatically, but that way you all can still do the rolls, because I know rolling your saves is fun. Having it being done automatically is not fun, so. But just to show you one more time, if we weren't to roll 1 more damage, and let's just say Godric is AFK, or he's in the bathroom, or something else is going on, and he doesn't roll it, 15 seconds will go by, and Foundry will automatically roll his save for him. Just like that. Cool. Awesome. With that goes over saving throws. So the next thing to go over is all the really fun things on Foundry, I feel. And that is, for example, the token lean button. That one's really fun. So we can open a door from here and hit the Z button, and we can kind of, ooh, what's in this room? Ooh, cool. It's a dining hall, right? Or we can move up to this next room and maybe do the same, but from this angle. Oh, it's a pool room. Cool. Awesome. Take your pants off, Godric. Just kidding. Nobody wants to see that dwarf. Just kidding. Alright. Bathroom in here, and, you know, let's see what's around this door. Ooh. Cool. So, very cool that we can do that, and we can, you know, sneak around and kind of see what's behind certain doors. Really useful for indoors here. Token lean is an awesome little thing. Next up is Dice So Nice, that I already kind of went over, but let's say we're playing the game and the option at the very top here, it doesn't tell you to change your dice settings here. Maybe that option is no longer around. How do I change my dice for this next session? Maybe I want to make them red. You can do so by going to the top right under Game Settings, clicking Configure Settings, and clicking on one dice module called Dice So Nice. And then from there, you can change your dice settings here. We can make them big and red, maybe like orange. Nah, let's go ahead and make them red. Yeah. And then we'll maybe make the inside like a cyan blue. There we go. That's cool. And next thing you can change is the, not the Dice So Nice that I talked about in the beginning. You know, you could roll dice from here, if you need to. Add and subtract modifiers, add advantage or disadvantage. Another thing that's really cool is if the zombie is an NPC here, this is more on the GM side, but if the zombie is an NPC, let's just get out of combat here for the moment. You can follow the zombie, so you can do so by hovering over the zombie and hitting the F button, and I believe you and your target will follow each other if you do not wish to move, and you move at the same pace as how far you are behind them. If you wish to stop moving in that direction, you just hit the F button, or you can just move your character again, and then they will not follow the zombie anymore. Something really cool, something really cool. If your token is flipped around like this, and you're like, oh no, how do I unflip it? You can right-click your token, and you can mirror it vertically or horizontally. So you can shift it to the left or the right, and shift it up and down as well. You can also, when you right-click your token, you can add conditions here if you want to. This is a shortcut way. You can add a height, so if you're like 10 feet up in the air, you can do so there. Let's say that there is no light in here, so let's say it's really dark in this area. Let's darken it a bit. Let's transition it to nighttime and say, oh no, it's getting dark, I need a torch. You can right-click your token and click this little torch icon, and you can place a torch on your character. And it will be dark everywhere else, but it will be light for your character. You can also click the AFK button if you wish to go AFK. This is the easier one, I think, because it actually shows that you're AFK in the chat instead of just the chat log. It shows on your token too, which is kind of nice. You just right-click your token and unselect it. Damage and everything is all done automatically, so you don't really ever have to worry about that affecting your HP or anything. If you do, I'll probably do it, or you can go into your character sheet and affect it there. Other than that, there is a couple other really cool modules for Foundry that I think are worth noting. One is called Polyglot, where if you are, Godric is a dwarf here, so if he wishes to speak Dwarvish, he knows Kendra Speak and Elvish too. So if he wishes to speak Dwarvish, he can do so. You have to make sure your token is always selected, otherwise it doesn't know who you're speaking as for the most part. But you can say, and he can speak an actual Dwarvish. And if the zombie or the other characters speak Dwarvish, it will come in and translate for you. Otherwise, it'll come in as the actual Dwarvish language or the Elvish language. Very cool, very cool. One other thing is anything that's on Foundry that has an open window, you could actually pop it out as another window here. So if you have multiple screens, you could have the character sheet up on like the left-hand side of your computer, or the right-hand monitor, or a third monitor. So if you like looking at your character sheet, or you can even just Alt-Tab too, if you wish to just Alt-Tab between the two. You could do that as well. That way you can be like, oh, I want to look around here. I always want to look at the map, but if I need to roll something quickly and I don't want to use this, the Token Action HUD, I can do so by just doing the character sheet. So, one last one is the upload images, but I think I went over that at the very beginning here, so you can do that as well here. You can even upload memes, so if we go to like Giphy, and we can actually go and we can drag a GIF of some happy birthday flowers into the chat. Oh, normally it does take, but perhaps they might have changed that on Foundry. There we go. There we go. Awesome. Here we go. Batman's way cooler than some politics. So we can actually change Foundry settings here. We'll go over this last bit here, and then this will be the end of the tutorial. Two more things, and then that'll be it. So top right hand side where the cog wheels are, the dual cog wheels, this goes into config game settings. Then you go to configure settings. There's a couple ones that you might want to note. DnD 5, the core settings here. If Foundry is being a little bit too laggy or too slow for you, you can change the performance mode to a different setting. This does affect Foundry. If you set it to the low setting, lights and ambient effects and things like that probably won't come in as well. But if you are lagging a lot, you can also turn down the frame rate as well. That can help improve the application performance as well. I probably would not go any lower than 30 though. You can also change these. If you're having trouble remembering what all these do, the token controls, you can turn on and off the token tooltips on hover. That way when you hover over it, it'll say, this is what the select token does. This is what selecting targets, this is what measurement distance does. But they're all fairly versatile. If you want to change the configure combat tracker, so perhaps you'd like to hear an epic music when a new round starts or when it's your turn, you can do so there. Also, if you'd like to hear like a fight commentator say when your turn is next or when combat begins,
battle has begun.
You can do that there if you wish to. I normally have it off, but it is kind of cool.
It will be your turn next.
Another one to check is Dice So Nice, which we already went over. That changes all your 3D dice settings, right? You can even change the performance there and set the image quality to lower if it's too laggy for you. Or you can just turn off the dice themselves right here by enabling it or disabling it. Another one to note is one called Potato or Not. This will show a dialogue asking you what your computer's quality level is. If you think you've got the lowest of the low, pick the cheap potato. If you've got a mid-range computer, probably pick middle or the medium settings. If you've got the best computer around and you know it, go ahead and pick premium potato. So most of the time, medium is the best option to go with, but sometimes I know some people do not have the best computers or they have the strongest computers, so that is your choice. Another one to go into is called Tidy 5e Sheet. So your character sheet is normally set to the light version here. If we just reset and pop in, bring it back into Foundry here. If you want, you can alternate it to dark mode, so that way maybe that's easier on the eyes for you. You can change the sheet there. The Token HUD action, or the Token HUD core, you could change the layout of it. You can import and export other styles. You can change the colors on it if you really want to. You can change it from instead of being dark like this, you can change it to a light mode if you'd like it to look like that. I suggest dark because I think it's the easiest. You can even make it more compact and smaller if you have eagle eyes, or if you have elf eyes. There's a couple other different ones in here that you can choose. I normally keep it on Foundry VTT dark. Besides that, there might be a couple others here where you could like display your character name. I'll actually change this to be that you can always show the HUD, so that way you can choose to turn it on or off if you do not want to use this. Let's see. Some other things on the Token Action HUD, you can show like uncharged items on it, show unequipped items if you wish, or you can have it abbreviate the skill and ability names, you can have it show unprepared spells. That's up to you if you wish to. That is it for for Foundry game settings. The last thing to go over here is the controls for Foundry. So in the controls here, you probably don't have to mess with any of these unless you really want to, but these are the core key bindings of Foundry. So if you want to mess with any of these, you can. They're user-to-user friendly, so don't feel like if you change it, you're going to mess up mine. The ones you probably might want to mess with is maybe drag ruler, perhaps, fast flip if you wish to flip your token around, you can do so with the G key or the Shift F key. That's what its default set to. You could also change the follow me button, so if you'd rather have fast flip on the F key and maybe the follow me button on the M key, you can change it there. You can change it here by just clicking on it, changing the button, and just clicking the button, setting M, and then clicking save. But we'll just change it back to F. MIDI QOL is where you can change if you need to manually roll something with advantage. I think it's set to shift left for everyone. If not, it might be set to alt left. So while holding alt or shift, you can roll the check or save with advantage. So if you want to roll an acrobatics check, normally it always asks you, but if you want the quick way, you can just hold shift. And if you want the quick disadvantage, you hold control. And if you have versatile damage, you hold V, or other formulas like critical or something like that. That's all under the MIDI QOL settings. I don't think there's any other ones that you'll need to really mess around with, unless you want to mess around with the token lean button. Sometimes you can change that to Q or a different one. I think Q is set for a quick draw, so if you want to draw something quickly on the canvas, you can do so by holding Q, and then just drawing with your mouse, and then it'll delete over time. And then the token lean button, you could change that to a different one if you don't like the Z key. Maybe you might like the L key to lean. So that's it for Foundry, though. I hope this has been a fairly good tutorial. I know it's been a long one. Like I said, I'm going to put timestamps everywhere in the video, so that way you can kind of guide around everywhere you need to, and hopefully it won't be so much of a jumble. Maybe I'll try to edit this video a little bit later on and make it a little bit easier. I did have a little bit of a guide here for it, but yeah, it's a lot to go over Foundry, right? So feel free if you need to ever look back on this video and just be like, oh, you know what? I want to look at that thing about combat again that Snake was talking about. Other than that, thanks everybody, and I'll see you in the game. Take it easy.